In Malaysia, the demand for our water is outstripping our supply. It's predicted that we'll lose a quarter of our water resources in the next 5 to 10 years. With longer drought seasons expected, the government is considering using groundwater to get us through. But here's why that might not be the best idea. Malaysia is a water-rich country. Our annual rainfall is between 2,000 millimeters and 4,000 millimeters, which contributes to an estimated annual water resource of 900 billion cubic meters. We have so much water, we decided to sell it to Singapore in a 1962 agreement that promised them 250 million gallons of raw water every day for the next 100 years. But if that's the case, what's with the frequent water cuts? And why are we in dire straits? Experts say there are 4 main reasons our resources are running low. 1. Poor water management. 2. River pollution. 3. Wasteful consumers. And 4. Increasing demand. Firstly, one of the main reasons behind our low water reserves is leakage from faulty pipes. On average, Malaysia loses 5,929 million liters of treated water every day. That's enough to meet the demand of Selangor and Johor. In most states, non-revenue water, which is water that has been treated and then lost, stands at around 35%. In some states, that rises to more than 70%, meaning less than 30% of usable water gets to the consumer.
We lose 2 billion a year by just this water leaking through the system. So this is the major problem. But if we reduce the non-revenue water, which is above 30% now, we actually increase more water that can be supplied.
But fixing the problem isn't cheap. We need to replace our old and aging asbestos cement pipes that are causing the leaks. According to Water, Land and Natural Resources Minister Dr. Xavier Jayakumar, to make an improvement of just 1% to NRW costs 800,000 ringgit. Now, let's talk about pollution. About 97% of our raw water supply is derived from surface water sources, primarily our rivers. According to the Malaysia Environmental Quality Report 2015, of our 477 rivers nationwide, 33 of them were categorized as polluted, meaning they cannot be used for water consumption. The River of Life project that beautified the Klang and Gombak rivers cost the federal government 4 billion ringgit. Environmentalists recently blamed government apathy for the pollution of rivers in the country and called for better monitoring of rivers and stronger enforcement of laws against pollution. And finally, Malaysians are wasteful water consumers. Not only is demand for water increasing as our population grows, but we use way more water than is recommended. The World Health Organization suggests that one person needs 165 liters of water per day, but Malaysians use between 220 and 240 liters a day. But this is actually an improvement. In 2016, the number was 300 liters per day. And it might not be fair to put the blame solely on consumers.
We have been proposing for a mandatory water efficiency labeling. On top of that, we wanted a minimum water efficiency standard, just like what we push for electricity. At the moment, pointing finger to them, you are not efficient, is wrong basically because the government agencies have not done their job.
Despite all of these unsolved problems, Water, Land and Natural Resources Minister Dr. Jayakumar announced the government plans to tap into groundwater to solve the water issue. Groundwater, as the name suggests, is the water that's found in the ground, more specifically in the cracks and spaces between soil, sand and rock. Malaysia has 5 trillion cubic meters of groundwater reserves, and we're using less than 3% of it.
Groundwater is actually as an alternative resources, especially during dry period, because groundwater is not affected by seasonal. Even during very dry period, the source of groundwater is still there. In terms of quality, groundwater is relatively much cleaner compared to our river.
Some states in Malaysia have already started using groundwater, like Kelantan and Selangor, but there are already concerns about the safety of the water. In 2006, Water Environment Partnership in Asia analyzed water samples taken from wells in Malaysia, and the result shows high level of iron, manganese, nitrate, and arsenic in some of their samples. Groundwater extraction has other serious implications too.
First is drop in water table. When there's drop in water table, you're going to have land subsidence issue. Look at Jakarta is sinking like 10 centimeter per year. Then we also look at when there's drop in water table, peat swamp area get drier, which means the probability or the higher risk for peat fires to occur during slight dry seasons, not even prolonged dry seasons, is very high.
What's more, groundwater, which is supposed to ease supply troubles regardless of the season, may not be immune to the seasons after all.
We don't have actually proper modeling studies done. And what we have is that some of the projects that was done in Kelantan actually relies a lot on groundwater. Almost a decade ago, when there was prolonged dry season, Kelantan actually recorded lower yield of groundwater extraction. Closer to that period also, Labuan had a serious water crisis. And about 14 million was spent just to solve this problem using groundwater. Zero result was actually achieved. This is where we actually see that groundwater might not be the actual solution when we are talking about dry season.
In fact, there are plenty of suggestions that would improve our water supply without the need for groundwater. Selangor's Langat 2 water treatment plant, after years of delay, should finally be finished by 2022. When Phase 1 rolls out in November 2019, this will increase the Selangor water reserves from 3% to 7%. A combination of consumer and industry devices would also reduce water waste, along with better national policies.
Kalau dia tempoh semua rumah tu pakai saving device, at least 30% reduction by fully installing water saving device. We can make policy, for example, all the factory must at least recycle 50% or 30%. But in Japan, it's compulsory for them to recycle at least 70%. The technology is there, but maybe it's expensive compared if we were to pay bill to the water company. Kalau kita lihat Singapore, they ada policy. Kalau industry, they have certain limit. If they exceed that limit, the penalty will be very high. So the industry will always be very careful, make sure that they do not exceed the limit.
It's also vital for the federal and state governments to work together to protect our rivers and address the issue of leakages. So while extracting groundwater might be useful one day, a lot more studies are needed to ensure that it's safe. And why not just spend that money improving the infrastructure that we already have?